My question for you guys: if there was 1,000 Jose's and 1,000 Chucks, what would you guys be doing? Like if they
Each
cut
other.
to and there's like 1,000 of you, so Chuck's just having a huge on.
Jose,
With
Tough
himself.
love.
Jose's watching like every CW show like ever created.
There's like 1,000 Jose's and they got all these TVs and they're
I
watching
watched
everything,
everything.
everything everywhere, all at once.
Think how many foreign films you can watch.
I would learn and master every language in 10 minutes.
Think of how many books you could be reading.
Yes. Welcome back to Not a Strong Start, a podcast by filmmakers who talk movies, television, and are multiplied by thousands to do so many things in a short amount of span. I'm your host, Dan Sangre, and I did not change my nickname because I forgot.
And I did change my name to I Won't Be Back. And I'm Jose.
I also did not change my name because I didn't know which episode we were recording, so I didn't change my name. And I'm Chuck.
Here we go. I just changed mine now. I'll be back, but in 9 years. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about TV shows, great TV shows that got canceled too soon. And then we're going to talk about some that got brought back much later. The fans wanted it, but was it still as good? Speaking of television, so people get so addicted to television, you get like really stuck with these characters because in a way, going to them, the way TV used to be, it used to be you would go to it every week, right? It was like a weekly thing. So you would schedule time, you sit down with your family, you guys would watch it. Ever since things became streaming and they dropped everything at once, in my opinion, it's kind of desensitized a little bit with it because you'll spend a weekend and then the next season may not come out for a year and a half. So, like for instance, a show Bel-Air. I saw the remake Bel-Air that came out. I was not hyped for it at all. I saw season 1. I was like, this is pretty good. I like this. It's different. You know, I'll check out season 2. A year and a half went by. Season 2 came out. I'm just like, it's too late. It's too late. I'm not interested anymore. Sometimes that can happen with this stuff. What's your guys' thoughts about that? Like, Jose, I'll start off with you. Like, what's your relationship with television? You know, I know I kind of went into streaming, but what's your take on that?
Yeah. No, and I agree. I do see your point in that you know, it becomes more of a shorter term excitement until you hear from it again. And production times over the last few years have felt like they've been getting longer with a lot of shows where it's not 6 months before you're waiting for a show. It's like 2 years sometimes. But then I know one of the benefits of the way we have it now is like I remember the past there were shows that I was like, oh, that looks good. Like I want to get into it. But it was like unless I was going and buying all the DVDs, if the show had a DVD, I was just kind of out of luck on that aspect because if I couldn't catch it on that day that it was on, I had to wait for maybe the day that they'll put a rerun of it. And sometimes shows would be out of order. So I felt like when I was younger, I missed a lot of shows that I might have enjoyed because of that schedule. Where now I can just be like, oh, this show from like 2 years ago that kind of interests me, and let me just binge it right now and get it out of the way, and I can rewatch it in order. So I kind of like the state of TV shows in that aspect the way it is now because I can kind of pick and choose more and not feel like I'm missing out on certain shows that I might enjoy due to scheduling.
Yeah.
That is true. And I feel like it really altered how they write the episodes, right? Because with the way they do the shows now with it dropping, it almost feels like to have a successful first season. Let's just use the show 24. You almost need a storyline where it feels like a really long movie that's going to kind of capture your interest. If you do something that's more weekly, if you have too many, like you have to really remember last week's episode. If you have too much of that kind of stuff, you start to kind of lose the storyline of what's going on because you can't watch them in succession. You know what I mean? But how do you feel about it, Chuck? What's your opinion?
I feel like it helps my social life because I didn't do anything every Friday night because I was watching the X-Files.
Yeah, that was. I love the X-Files, actually.
Yeah, so it helped my social life. You know, other than that, like I'm not big on like binging shows though. Like I kind of like the week to week thing because I feel like I can process everything that kind of happens like from week to week. I feel like I can live in like, oh, what do you think happened, or what's going on, or do you think this like? If I feel like there's more to break down, to talk about, instead of just watching something like kind of consecutively.
Man, give me the buffet. I wanna walk in there and I wanna have all the options. And it's like I wanna have this, then I wanna have that, then I wanna have this. I don't want to be stuck with just like this meal where
No,
it's like now.
I'll take the 4 or 5 course meal where I get one thing at a time, and what does this taste like? This is pretty
The
good.
menu. You like the menu.
Yeah, or give me like a bottle of wine. Let's got some wine. Oh, this is good. Let me clean my palate here. Like
Yeah.
I kind of prefer that.
I
So
get it. The good thing is that when we do like our hit it or quit it, right? Like when you have a show like Blockbuster that it's probably not going to be that good. You can hurry up and bang it out in an hour and a half and say, you took enough of my time, I'm out, rather than 3 weeks. You got
That's
my
what she
attention for
said.
3 weeks now. That's what she said. And she did say that. Yeah, but
Since we are going to be talking about canceled shows,
mhm,
I do feel that the binge format uh, can help some shows that in the past might have been canceled on the weekly. Some
mhm,
shows that it might take a little bit to kind of get into the groove and find that strength where on the week to week, people by episode 2, episode 3, which is week 3, at that point, they might be like, I don't want to be watching this. I can be watching something else at that point, and they might leave a show too early.
yeah,
Where now you can kind of knock it out in one afternoon, and kind of let the show find its groove. So there's certain storytelling that actually works better in my opinion, in binging format than week to week format. While other shows I feel still work better in week to week format.
mhm,
they've had shows, going week to week where they cancel it after the second or third episode because no one's
mhm,
watching it. What if that show, and maybe they already filmed 10 episodes or whatever, but it got canceled after the third? What if they showed it on Netflix and it picks up like on the third or fourth episode and people love it, and it goes on to a season 2, whereas opposed to like the other one, like, got canceled because no one was watching it, didn't pick up until the third or fourth episode.
yep.
I mean,
It,
that's for me. I mean, as big as Game of Thrones was, like the House of Dragon, of course they're not going to cancel it, but I didn't really like it till like the third or fourth episode. Like, it was
mhm.
okay, but then it really picked up, and I thought it was a lot better, obviously, than some of the final seasons of Game of Thrones.
And that's kind of what we hit with television. That's why I think it puts the pressure on the writers, is because if your show is a week to week basis, or if it's something that you drop all at once, you have to modify the storyline and how you tell it. Because House of Dragon, they had the luxury of knowing that they weren't going to get canceled. They had already filmed the season, they already had the budget to do it. So they can take their time fully developing it. And now that you like the first season, you can go back, watch episode 1 and 2, and you're probably going to like it a little
Yeah.
more because you know where it's going to go. And now you're going to notice a little tiny, slow developing storylines that may flush things out, that you didn't normally get. Um, it really puts the pressure on the writers and the television writers to get it right. So I think the hardest thing of any genre of television, because we've had shows that have gone and have come back, and they've done some kind of resurgence. Usually, it's like fan bases that cheer for it, and they get like the fans behind it. Comedy is the one that they've tried, and we're gonna get into this now. But we've had comedy shows that have gone and come back, and in my opinion, they usually don't work. Very rarely do they ever, because it's like a time capsule. And usually, if they come back later, it feels kind of dated. It's like the characters aged. Even just seeing the characters that you had in your mind and then they come back and they look aged can easily throw an audience member out of it. Like, what do you guys see as some of the reasons why, if a show comes back, didn't work?
Yeah, I mean, kind of going off, you mentioned changes in the characters and like that, but they can also be, and it's something we've talked about, we've experienced over the last 5 or 6 years, just a change in comedy itself, where
Mm-hmm.
maybe the comedy doesn't apply anymore or isn't accepted anymore. Comedy that was good and fun and everyone loved 15 years ago, just today might rile those same people up, and all of a sudden, they want heads to roll. So that can
Mm-hmm.
also shift.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Dan, because I didn't really think about that. There's a show that we'll talk about that wasn't as good, and I'm just like, what happened? But I remember thinking like, I mean, we all get older and we all look different, you know. But I was like, he looks old. Yeah, that person looks old too. They look kind of
Yeah.
fat, like, and like,
Yes.
and I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, did that affect why I didn't like the show anymore? You know, like, I don't know. I
Sometimes.
mean, if it was a drama, you're like, damn, they look older. They got like, it's a drama, and you see like their pain and getting older and maturing, and maybe that works. But with a comedy, you're just like, like you're not
Yeah.
that funny, or I don't
Yes,
know.
man. It happens. And we ourselves change. So as the culture changes, we shift on what's funny. There's new crisis that's happening on television. Like the things that we are bringing up on social media, the stuff we're laughing at. That's why viral videos that were funny 2 years ago, you might go back and it's like, you won't even chuckle. You're just thinking, what the hell is this? But at the time, we're sharing it amongst ourselves, cracking up. We ourselves change. So I think what you're saying, Chuck, is like, it's really like a philosophical look to see it when they age. It's not just like, I don't think you're just looking at like, this guy's fat and old. I'm not going to laugh at that. No, you've seen older, out of shape people that you laugh at. The difference is that you're, in a way, you're sort of realizing the time gap. And it's like, this
Yeah.
just isn't working. Like physically, it doesn't look the same. And the material isn't the same. Like it's different. You know what I mean? Like I've outgrown this and I now physically have outgrown this.
And I think also one thing that I haven't thought of too much, but it's the fact that when you have that break in between before you're coming back, you give the
Mhm.
opportunity of something else to come and do it better. And then now, if you're not surpassing the new stuff, you're kind of just left behind.
Let's get into our show. So we each had a show that we're going to talk about that had the success of being canceled and then coming back. Now, when it came back, did it do well or not? That's what we'll discuss.
Friday Night Lights, um, you know, it ended up going 5 seasons, right? But there was actually, it didn't necessarily get canceled, but in the second season there was the writer strike, so they had an order for 22 episodes, but because of the strike they went down to 13. And it just, season 2, while I enjoyed it because I love the characters or whatever, it was the weakest season. And so after, and not a lot of people watched it, so they were like, eh, you know, we're done. But I guess Peter Berg, he was the executive producer or whatever, like he pushed for it. He knew that if they had the right, you know, they had their writers and whatnot, that it could be successful. And so they actually came back. There was like a 2 or 3 year gap between actually season 2 and 3. And finally they, and it's funny because they were in high school, so you had like these like high school kids that got, I mean, I'm sure they were in high school, but they only moved up a grade in like 2 or 3 years. And you could tell, you were like, damn, Riggins, Taylor Kitsch, like, fool looks like he's like 30 now. I mean, he looks great, but he doesn't look like a junior in high school. But, you know, the writing and the acting was so good that you kind of just overlooked it, you know, and it ended up succeeding for another 3 seasons, you know. And they even like, and I had did a little bit of research on this, and you know, like a lot of the students had graduated, but what they did, they had gotten older too, so they pretty much recast everybody but the coach and his wife for season 4 and 5. And we got like Michael B. Jordan, he was there for season 4 and 5. He was the main like high school character. And those seasons, even though you got rid of like pretty much all the characters from seasons 1 through 3, which were awesome, it was still so freaking good. It was still so good. It was about the writing, it was about the acting, it was, and you realize the main character, even though like football is the backdrop, the main character was Coach and his wife, their relationship, and they go down as like one of like the best like on-screen like couples of like all time, you know. So, but
It,
that's it.
it's
That's
always
all I got.
it's always bad when you look at the characters supposed to be in high school and you look and you're like, is that hair plugs?
Yeah.
Is that's Rogaine? Like
Is that
they
gray
dyed their
hair? Why
hair.
does this guy got
Like
gray
they
hair?
dyed their hair. Like that's darker now. Like you notice those kind of things, and it's like, what are we watching? And
But it
I'm
was
What,
still
pretty
in high
what,
school. Like, no,
it
you're
was
not.
pretty wholesome for the most part. And I know we've talked about Euphoria, how we're
Hmm.
seeing these 20-year-olds play high school students, but they're doing all this sexual stuff, and you're kind of like, okay, I know they're in their 20s, but they're playing high school kids, and they're
Hmm.
having all this sex, and some of them are kind of hot, and you feel kind of weird about it, you know. But at least with Friday Night Lights, nothing like that was going on. Like it was all
Hmm.
pretty wholesome, and it's worth the
yeah.
watch for
It's
those
like
who have.
everyone was like already casted old as these high school students, and then
Yeah.
like by the time they come back, they instead of just being parents of two kids, now they're
Hmm.
grandparents by the time it comes back, but still playing a
Yeah.
junior in high school.
Hmm.
But no, that show I actually enjoyed that show. I felt Kyle Chandler
Mm,
carried that show like throughout. He played the coach in there, even with the rotating players and all that. And I mean, he's a great actor. So I remember watching that. It's one of those shows that it's overly dramatic.
mm.
So it's like everything that can possibly happen in high school, bad things that can happen in high school, plus things that might not happen, that all happen to the same students within the same year. Like that type of like dramatic, where it was like these kids are gonna need therapy by the time they get out of high school because everything's always going
Oh
wrong.
yeah, there's this heartbreaking scene where Matt Saracen, the quarterback, he's eating dinner with like coach and his family, and his peas get mixed in with his carrots, and he just has like a mental emotional breakdown, dude. And I'm just like, oh my god. But you're so like invested in like these characters that you're like, okay, this has to do with his mom and
You
his
know what?
dad.
I I can empathize with that. I don't like my food touching. I
Yeah.
get very like I like it separated and whatever, unless it's made to
Segregation,
be.
Dan.
Yeah, unless it's supposed to be. I don't want my peas tasting like carrots. Like you stay
Yeah.
over there. Don't mix juices. I don't want to taste
Yeah.
this. Like,
See,
Dude,
and
I.
that's why I don't like chicken and waffles. I don't want syrup on my chicken.
But it
Keep it
tastes
to
so
the
good.
waffles.
oh,
It
Yeah.
dude, I
tastes
went to
so
Norm's
good.
last night.
I
Dude,
haven't had Norm's
do
in
you guys know
forever.
I
Norm's?
forgot
Yeah,
Norms.
Norm's
Oh
was
Wow.
my
so
We used to
god,
go to
good.
Norms all the time.
it was
Yeah.
so good, dude. You don't
So
even
we
know.
found it. We said no IHOP, no Denny's, but Norm's, you got our
No,
hookup,
Yeah.
baby. The one that I did was Arrested Development. I loved Arrested Development when it first came out. Huge mega cast: Jason Bateman, Portia de Rossi, Will Arnett, Michael Cera, young Michael Cera, David Cross. Um, Tons of people came out of this. It was one of those ones that was on Fox, and Fox is notorious for screwing up their own shows. They couldn't figure out what time frame they want to put it on. They'll put it on like a Friday night, and when people are just like, "No, I'm over this. I have a social life." It kept struggling with ratings because they just couldn't figure out where to place it. But you had this great cast and this chemistry that was undeniable. So it was one of those shows that got canceled after 3 seasons, went away. It had such a big mass fan following that Netflix scooped it up and they brought it up. Netflix would have been perfect for it when it first came out. By the time, so Netflix did 2 seasons. So just to give you retrospect, it was 2003 when it started, ended in 2006. Netflix brought it back in 2013. Michael Cera, everybody was already a big star. Michael Cera's not a kid anymore. He's like a full grown man. Like the dynamics that they had. And that was always my fear with Stranger Things. These are kids, but they're so clearly in their 20s now. Arrested Development was bringing them back, but like the dynamics was off. They're even though the actors still had good chemistry, that just the humor was old, it was dated, it didn't work anymore. And they took like a couple years before the last season came out. Like I didn't even watch it. It was too aged. It wasn't the same anymore. It was like it had its run, move on. And that's my thing about comedy is that it tends to be singular. So there'll be a lot of we've all had conversations about this. There's comedy movies that come out that were hilarious. You watch them later and they just don't age as well. If you guys have seen American Pie lately, it doesn't age as well, man. Like
For that reason, no.
man, it doesn't. Like it really doesn't. And you get that a lot with comedy. But like, did you guys watch Arrested Development? Were you guys fans?
yeah, no, I loved it. I didn't watch it when it was on Fox. I remember seeing like trailers for it, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think much of it. And fuck, I wish I remember who got me into it, but I started watching it again in around like 2007, 2008, and I loved it. I've seen season 1 through 3 at least 10 or 15 times.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there's still jokes when I watch it. I'm like, oh, didn't pick that up the first 14 times I watched it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's so funny. It's so clever. To me, it's one of the best written shows of like all time.
So
It's
clever.
hilarious. So clever. There's a joke every 30 seconds. And I'm not talking about Thor Love and Thunder joke every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm talking about good, clever jokes that like everything that was said for a reason.
Yeah.
Everything.
Jason Bateman, dude, he's so good with his little quips where he says it and the other actors didn't even pick it up. Like I'm sure they did, but they didn't play into it. It just totally enhances the comedy. Jason
Yeah.
Bateman is a genius on that show.
Yeah,
So good.
and I talked to my brother about this show, and we talked about like who's the craziest, like who's just the wackiest, craziest one on the show. And we realized that it was Jason Bateman. Like he's the craziest one. Like he's still there in this family, and he looks to be the most normal, but I think
Like
he's
you
the
know
most.
better because you
Yeah,
know better.
you know you should be gone, and it's like he's crazy, dude. Like what are you doing, dude? And some of the stuff he does with Charlize
Mm,
Theron, and it's
yeah.
just like
Yeah.
come on,
The
dude, you're
definition
nuts,
of
dude.
insanity. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
insanity.
yeah,
It is because it's one thing if you're in prison. It's another one that you're willingly walking into prison
yes,
every day and you're living there. That's what he's doing.
I had the DVDs and I kind of just
Mm-hmm.
binged through the
Mm-hmm.
originals. And then so I got excited when Netflix was renewing it. Oh, I wasn't thinking about the possible red flags or how it can go wrong. I was like, "Oh, I love this show. Like it's coming back." But I besides the aging, I think also because everyone was so big, I feel like there must have been like some kind of scheduling
yeah.
issues
There
that they might have
was.
had to bring everyone in because you didn't have as many of the ensemble scenes. Everyone seemed kind of separated. They also filmed it in a way where it was presented out of order in this wacky order, which threw a lot of people off. Which I do know there was a fan or fans, I don't know if it was multiple ones, that after the fact, they actually went back and they re-edited the new seasons to put them in order. And I guess it plays better, and people have enjoyed his edited
Mm-hmm.
version better than the Netflix one because it transitions in a smoother watch than
It's
what Netflix presented.
it's on that on Netflix now. They
Oh,
Mm.
they
they
re,
took
they
it.
redid it. Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So it's in order now. So
So they took the guys they took the guy's
yeah.
work, did it themselves, they gave him no
I,
credit. Cool.
I
Cool,
don't know,
Netflix.
dude, but they redid it though, and it does. I did watch it again, and it does play better. It's still not great, and I was hoping that like with season 1 through 3, I just felt
Mm.
like you know what, people didn't get it. They didn't get it at that time,
Did you
and I
get
was
it?
hope.
Did you
Yeah,
get it?
yeah. I didn't get it, but I was hoping that like you know what, maybe I just season 4 and 5. I'm like maybe I just don't get it. Maybe it's ahead of its time still, like 1 through 3 was. And I kind of watched it again, and I'm like,
Mm.
no, no, it's not good.
You just didn't get the lighting. No, but what they did with this too is they film scenes where the actors weren't on set together. So you're lacking chemistry. So like they'll do like cutaways or they'll do like over the shoulder stuff and it reads. So the actors aren't properly playing off the other actor and it read and it felt like one of those things that you guys want to, yeah, well, we're gonna give it to you, but it's like, but it's all processed foods now. Like you didn't cook this thing from scratch. It's not Norms. You're giving us Denny's.
I don't want the moves over my hammy. All right,
No.
I want the lumberjack, which is what I got last night.
You want the
uh,
lumberjack where the ham's off the floor. That's what you want.
Yeah.
All right, Jose.
little
So,
dust crystals. Uh,
yeah.
Uh, I feel I'm going to be covering Futurama, and I feel like that transitions well because part of the reasons for the original cancellation is similar to what happened with Arrested Development. Now, Futurama's been on a weird route throughout its like lifetime. So originally, I guess Fox, being Fox, was literally throwing it was like, here you go on Sunday at 8:30, then we'll move you to Tuesday, then we'll move you to Friday. Even got to the point now because of sporting events, they just wouldn't show an episode at all from that season. It was just like never show it at all. So I ended up getting canceled. I mean, as at that time, especially when you don't have like a Netflix or a streaming service that you have to rely when it shows on live TV. Overall, if you don't know when the show's coming out, like I'm sure that's gonna affect the ratings. And then the executives are probably there like, look, no one's watching. But that led to like the first cancellation of that. But similar to like Family Guy, they ended up getting the reruns got picked up by Adult Swim, so they started showing Adult Swim. That was picking up momentum there. DVD sales also ended up picking up momentum until Comedy Central got the rights. They eventually brought it back. I think they did like a couple of seasons, 2 or 3 seasons of
Mhm.
it, and then they just canceled it again. I think in like 2009, and these networks are not doing a great job of double tapping Futurama when they try to kill it because it's coming back again. Hulu is bringing it back. I think within the next like year, so Futurama will still live for a third time. I feel like Family Guy, it did do well when it came back overall. I know like Family Guy did really well when it came back. I don't think Futurama was to that level because they only got like a couple of seasons in, but it was received well. I don't know if it's going to be received well in a third showing. So
Mhm.
we will see. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's how I feel. So it's sort of like the Kim Kardashian, right? Like it's just hopping and it can't be canceled. But the thing with Futurama, I love Futurama. Animation is the that's the magic formula of successfully bringing a show back. Is animation because the characters don't look aged. Kids are more prone to be attached to animation. It could still fill exactly the same time frame that we left with me with Futurama. It's and that's why I say this is what goes with what I was talking about where I was in a mindset. I was a younger kid when Futurama came out. When it came back, I was more. You said 2009, right?
That's when they got its second
Uh,
cancel. No, yeah, revived in
yeah.
2009, got
So
canceled again 2013.
2009 was when I was already like in college and I was in a different period, but I'll just like zone out, watch some Hunger, the Hunger Force. Like I sit back and watch some of that stuff. And like it was different time. Now, well, it's like now I'm in a very different more period in my life. And even though Family Guy is very out there comedy. And when you take bold risks, it could be a high risk, high reward type of thing. And they hit the reward, but Family Guy runs the risk of being aged more. I feel like Futurama's safer, but it has more rewatchability in a fact that I think that like Family Guy, the comedy can get old and stale. I feel like Futurama, it's set up and it's a good world, sci-fi, like it's solid.
Animated shows, I feel they're more at risk of early cancellation than live action shows. I think due to the cost of animation. I know there's been animated shows that I've watched. I could think there was Young Justice was one. There was a Green Lantern series that was really good. All of those got canceled with good ratings, good fan following. So they were in good position, and they got canceled. And it turns out you hear executives talking about because of toy lines, like with Young Justice is, uh, they were like it has a high fan of like young girls and adults are fans of it, and they're like, but those people they don't buy toys, so we need to move on to a show that targets like young boys because that's what's going to bring in the money for toys. So you can get cancellation animations that have nothing to do with the quality of the show.
All right, so let's get into some shows that never got the return back. So, what are some of the shows that you guys liked that maybe only last about a season or two, and you feel like it has some extra life? Even though now I'm sure none of them can come back because now I feel too aged. What are some of the ones you guys loved?
Well, this one isn't like that aged. I actually just watched it. It came out on Apple Plus. Shantaram with Charlie Hunnam.
That got canceled already?
Yes, it got canceled.
I was gonna watch that. Now I'm not gonna watch it.
You know, I
I never even heard of it.
honestly, it's good, but don't watch it. And the reason I'm telling you not to watch it is because it's really good. It's well acted. The writing's good. Like, it's a great show, but it ends on the biggest cliffhanger ever. So much that even at the end it says to be continued, and it got canceled. Like, the dude gets caught and he's left. He's literally strung up, getting tortured, and it's like to be continued, and it's done, dude.
I hate when
Yeah,
they do that.
I
It's
I
won't watch
done.
hate when
it.
they.
I like closure. So
Don't
there's been
watch it.
times where there's been a show that I'm about to start it, and then it gets like the cancellation hook, and I'm like, well, not starting that one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's no point. Like, I mean, if you really had nothing, like, it's great, you will enjoy it, but you're not gonna enjoy the last 10 seconds because you're just like, there's so much more story. I mean, I thought about reading the book because it's based on a novel, and there's a lot that they left out, but from what I understand, people who've read the book like really like the show. So I might check out the book, although I think I don't know.
I'm not gonna watch it for the reason I don't go to strip clubs. I'm not looking to get teased with no finish. So
Unless
I
you
think
go to
you're
the
going.
ones in TJ.
I think you're going to the wrong strip clubs, dude. There's one in this alley, in this really shady part of town.
that's exactly how you always want that sentence to
Yeah.
start. There's one in
Yeah,
this alley.
yeah, and
Always
it's not
works out for
exactly a strip
everything.
club, and there's not exactly girls there either. But you're gonna have a good time.
You're gonna finish.
You'll finish.
You'll finish.
Whether you like it or not. I have one. I think one we're familiar with. Agent Carter.
Mm.
I really enjoy Agent Carter. I think Haley Atwell was really good at that character.
Yeah, she
Um,
is.
yeah, but yeah, she was really good. It was a really good show, and actually, it had a good fan following overall. But I guess it ended up just being canceled because the network itself wanted to use her for something more mainstream. Because even Marvel didn't want to cancel it, but it was up
Mm.
to the network. This is pre like Disney Plus and all of that. But it was on a show that had good following, had an interesting storyline. She was really good in it, and I think it got canceled after like 2 seasons, and just kind
Mm.
of left you wanting more.
Okay. I did Freaks and Geeks. Freaks and Geeks is a famous one. Judd Apatow, so really got him on. They had so many starless actors that were young at that time, so it's sort of like their version of like the Wonder Years. You had like a Seth Rogen, James Franco. You had all these actors at a very young, pivotal time, and it got canceled. Huge fan base loved it, and it was the same thing. Like it was, I believe it was Fox again. Like they don't know where to put these time frames. So people wanted to bring it back, but by then it was too late. Everybody was ready to A-list star, and like they were clearly not in high school anymore. You caught at a certain time, and the first season's great. I've gone back and I've watched it a couple times. It felt like they had more to say. I'm like, okay, so you give me that 70 show, like that thing ran way too damn long. That's the show you gave me all these seasons of and not Freaks and Geeks. Like, come on, man. Like again, it was a more of a current telling for us of the Wonder Years. Like Wonder Years I liked when I was a kid, but it was still dated. I was still too young for the Wonder Years. This one was good, man. It came out at a good time, and it's unfortunate. Didn't make the cut.
So I just found out. I think it's the lead kid in that, the one who's supposed to be the
Hmm.
lead character. He's
Yeah.
the one who
Sam.
wrote Far From Home.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
gone into like writing, and I think he's starting to like dabble in like directing and stuff. So he's kept a career behind the scenes.
Constantine. I wanted to see more Constantine. I think it came out on NBC, and I kind of caught on to Constantine through the animated movies. They're so good. I think I had sent one to you guys that I had just saw, uh, Demon City of Demons. Um, so great. But do you know the? I know I do this to you guys all the time. Jose, what's the guy's name that plays Constantine? Matt Ryan.
That's the guy.
Yeah, he plays Constantine the live version, but he also plays Constantine in all the animated movies and shows. And I wanted more. I thought the show was pretty good considering it was like NBC, and it only ran one season. And I
Yeah.
was like, it was good. I liked
It
it.
got left on the cliffhanger too.
They
And
always
like,
do.
yeah, and
Yeah.
well, it's a lot of people wanted more of it because even though they canceled that show and it was clear that we're not going to bring it back, and at that point the CW had so many like hero shows that they didn't want to add another one to it. So fans kept requesting like to put him in anything they had to do it. So he made appearances in other shows
Yeah.
because he did such a good job as that character that fans wanted him in one form or another, even if it's not his own show.
Yeah, I even tried because I know he's like in, was it like Flash or Heroes of Tomorrow and
He was in Heroes of Tomorrow, and I think he appeared in maybe Arrow.
Arrow something. Yeah, I even kind of wanted to just watch some of those episodes just to see him in it because he's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I know they're gonna get Keanu Reeves to do the movie version, but he's pretty good, dude. I
He
think he was
nailed the
kind of.
character, the essence of the character. For my next one, I have it's not really a known show, but there was this show called Colony. One of the lead actors was one of the guys from Lost, from the Lost series.
Matthew
But
Fox,
no, the one who had
Aiden
the long
Quinn.
hair, Sawyer. I think his
Oh,
character was
Sawyer.
Sawyer in
Yeah.
Lost.
Yep. Long guy.
Oh, he was in Mission
Yeah.
Impossible. He died.
Yeah.
Yes, he
Yep.
was.
Yeah.
So it had an interesting premise. Basically, you have aliens come and they colonize like the Earth. Overall, like they start off, first they cut off communication. They target specific like leaders to get them off the board, and then they drop down these giant walls that pretty much separates like big cities, contains them, so they isolate everyone, and that's how they gain control.
Mm,
And so they pretty much they're colonizing to use the humans as allies and labor
mm,
for their battle that they're gonna have with like another race in there. So you have in these colonies the humans that have accepted their fate and they're kind of working with the aliens, and then you have the ones that haven't and they're kind of like trying to do like a rebellion. So it ended up being a very intriguing concept, and I enjoyed it. And then I think they canceled it in the third season, and so we never got like closure on the story or how far the rebellion was gonna go. So that was a
So,
disappointment.
so who got colonized? What's the answer?
Yeah. And the whole thing, it's in LA. That's pretty much where that focuses on.
Hmm, cool.
But now we got to see more.
We're always getting colonized. And so many things, LA's always getting colonized. Sorry, Chuck. Yeah.
Used to it.
Yeah. I did one called Pushing Daisies. I don't know if you guys ever heard that one. I think it was
I've
on
heard of it. Don't know what it's about, but
I
I've heard
think
it.
ABC, something like that, but just super highly stylized show. It was like that quirky, cute kind of comedy-ish, but like it had to do with like mystery solving and stuff. I liked it, man. The filmmaker, they even had like the whole narrator, that's kind of like saying like the funny things and like you're seeing a reflection of what you're seeing on screen. It kind of had like an Amelie feel to me. I love foreign films. It felt like that, but it was an American that was behind it though. But it was quirky. I like quirky characters. It had a different style and voice, and I just wanted to see more of it. Like I just felt like it was at that time when we were just getting like what you said, Jose. It was just, oh, here's another version of Heroes because Lost was big. Now we're seeing 5 more versions of this. It was just something different. Good characters.
Oh, that's completely different than what I thought. You said Pushing Daisies. I thought it was like HGTV.
I think it was like I think it was ABC or something like that.
Really?
I don't even know what the actors' names are, but it had Kristen Chenoweth. Like I'm sure you guys heard of her. She's done like Disney stuff and voice and stuff. She's big in like musical theater and stuff. But she played a character in it. And she's like the only name that I recognize. I don't know the other people.
How
Oh
long
no
did
no
it
no
go?
no 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 no. The main actor guy was the dude from Guardians of the Galaxy 1, the bad guy.
Oh.
Lee something is his name.
Lee Pace.
Is that what it is? Lee Pace?
Huh.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah,
Like a
dude, it
TV
is.
something. Okay. Yeah, it's that guy. That guy was the lead in it.
Wilfred.
Oh, Wilfred.
Wait, is that the
Wilfred.
dog human?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Elijah Wood.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
just ended. Like they just kind of canceled it.
Oh, I think I meant just recently. I was like, dude, I remember that stuff like 10 years ago. That thing was still
Yeah.
running.
No, it ended a while back, but they
I saw
just
the first season. It was
yeah, no, but they were building towards something and then they were
yeah.
just they just cut it, like I was invested in it,
The
and I
premise is hilarious, bro. So I guess that actor that played the dog, they have like a British
British
version of the
version, yeah.
show. Yeah, and that's what they did. So maybe check out the British version and see if it's funnier.
Yeah, they usually close out their shows, right? Because they don't
Yeah.
do that many seasons.
They usually do two. They usually do 2 to 3 seasons, and they usually do like a movie, but it's more like 4 episodes in one. It's like 2 hours that they'll do. That's what I think Americans should be doing with their comedies, man. Keep it at 2 seasons. Do like a little follow up a couple years later. Boom, done. Move on. We don't
Oh,
need
the
more.
Nick. That's what it was.
The Nick is the one with the girl from. Is that the one
Always
with?
Sunny in
Yeah, it's always
Philadelphia.
sunny. Yeah, that girl, blonde. It's
No,
like she like is with kids or something. Yeah, that was
no.
called
The
the Nick.
Nick is it's like turn of the century, like the 19th century. It's like with Clive
Mm,
Owen, and he's a
mm,
surgeon,
mm,
and it's directed by Steven Soderbergh. It's like 2 seasons.
mm, mm.
Oh, we're thinking about the Mick with the
Oh, the
M.
Oh
Mick.
no, 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 the
The
That's what it
Mick.
Nick,
is.
the
That's what
Nick.
we're
No,
thinking
it
of.
was on
That's what it
Showtime.
is.
Um,
That we've
amazing,
heard of,
I already
but
saw the
the
Mick.
but the one with Clive Owen we never heard of. That's crazy. That's a way better show.
dude. I've told you guys about it before. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen. You know what?
Mm,
It didn't get canceled. They wanted to do a 3rd season, but Steven Soderbergh like wrote and directed the 2 seasons, and he said, "I always had 2 seasons in mind, and that was it. Like I was
mm.
cutting to
I'm
that 2
glad they did.
seasons."
I respect that. I
Yeah,
respect that.
and they were like, "No, we should do a 3rd," which I would have been happy for, but I'm also happy that it never got stale. It never got weak.
Hmm.
The last episode was just as good as the first
Hmm.
episode.
Yeah.
You
It
guys should
didn't
really
have
check it out.
closure.
Okay.
There's closure, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I'll check it
Yeah.
out. All right.
Yeah, I like when shows do that sometimes, where it's like they're not sure if they're gonna come back, or they don't assume that they're gonna get renewed,
Hmm.
and they close out at least the majority of their storylines.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, we have all the material we can do, but
Hmm.
if this is where it ends, we at least have a closed out story.
Okay.
Was it Hannibal?
Is that the one with the woman
Okay.
from Always Sunny?
No, I had the guy from It's Always Sunny. Who? Danny DeVito.
I had the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
That's
Come
the one
on,
with
Jose.
Lena. What's
Yeah,
her face, right? Yeah.
yeah, Lena.
Don't act like you
Headey.
remember now. I made this argument like a month ago. Man, that's Lena Headley. No, it wasn't. And I'm like, yeah, it was. No, it wasn't, dude. And I'm like, and now
And
you're
now
like, that's with
claiming it.
Lena Headley.
Told you, Chuck.
Yeah. And who produced it? But this show was actually really good. I remember when it first came out, they people were complaining, even though they enjoyed the show. The show had a good reception, but people were complaining at first over the casting, because they were like, she's not muscular enough to be Sarah Connor. Because this show took place right after Terminator 2, so it's supposed to attach to that. And she was jacked in Terminator 2. So they
Yes.
were complaining that Lena was not jacked as Sarah Connor.
Dude,
But
Linda Hamilton wasn't supposed to get that jacked. She chose to get that jacked, right? Like, it's not like James Cameron told her, you need to get this jacked. She just went crazy with it and got super muscular for it.
yeah, which I think, even if it comes after T2, it's completely believable.
Who
I mean,
cares?
you can work out for like 2 years and be in the best shape,
Mhm.
and you have one bad month and you lose like 5 years of working out. Like,
You
it's so
can't
easy
work
to
out
get
if
out
you're
of
on the
shape.
run, dude. If you're on the run, you're
Yeah.
not working out as much.
So it's believable that maybe she's, got out of shape a little bit. But anyway, it was really good. I enjoyed the story, but I think one of the reasons I felt it got canceled too early is because where they were going to go. What have I said when talking about the Terminator? I was like, give me a Terminator. Like, forget this whole going back and past into the past thing to kill someone off thing. I'm over that storyline. Just give me a Terminator, which we're just strictly focused in the war, whether it's the beginning of the war, middle of the war, and just focus on that and just give me that. Well, this supposedly for season 3, it was good. We were gonna go to where John in the future, where John is actually fighting against them, where you see him as the leader and why he became who he became, and the reason why they want to take him out into the past. And that's where the focus was going to go, supposedly, of this show, and we were going to get that. And I think this is another Fox cancellation, Fox being Fox. But yeah, we lost that.
There's one called Happy Endings. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Happy Endings. It doesn't. The story sounds nothing like the title does. It sounds nothing
That with
like
Jennifer
the
Love
title.
Hewitt?
No, that's a movie. No, she's not even want to call it Happy Endings, is there?
Which is the one where she's like a masseuse that gives happy endings?
Yeah, like love not Love Line, but like something like that, like Call Girl, something Call something. So this one's called Happy Endings. It's sort of like you have Damon Wayne's son was in it when he's what was that show he was on for like the first episode, like the New
Came
Girl
on,
with Zoe Deschanel. You know what I'm talking, what's that show? I thought you watched it.
Girl
Was it?
Next
New
Door,
Girl. New
Yeah,
Girl.
the New
New
Girl.
Girl.
He did 2 pilots. Happy Endings, New Girl. They both got picked up. He chose Happy Ending. So this was the other show that he was on. Funny, it's just like you have like couples, friends, whatever, they're friends with each other, but a lot of the characters are like dumber. And I thought they got dumb characters and dumb humor very well. And they just did it well. Funny show, nothing too deep about it. Only lasted like a season, I think 2 seasons maybe. I would have liked to see more. Funny comedy. But real quick, bonus question for you guys before we close this out. What's one show that went on too long that should have gotten canceled a long time ago?
How I Met Your Mother.
Okay. Was that
The Blacklist.
good one? I'm gonna pick one. Sliders. I love Sliders when I was a kid. Great concept. Them jumping through portals, going to different dimensions. It was the first multi-universe thing going on. Went on way too long. And when you change the main actor, Jerry O'Connell, when you swap him out for his brother, first of all, many people don't know he has a brother that kind of acts. That's already a problem. That's a recipe for disaster. Should have canceled after that. But
it's like Patrick Mahomes' brother.
Exactly. Jackson Mahomes, who we don't speak about on this podcast. Thank you for watching another episode of Not a Strong Start. You can watch us on YouTube. You can comment, like, subscribe, share. Please do all that stuff. Send us comments. Let us know what you're watching, what you're not watching, what you wish came back. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, Not a Strong Start. I'm your host. I'll be back, but in 9 years, much older and in worse shape. King_Sangre.
I'm like the Saracana Chronicles. I won't be back. And you can find me at This Is Me Nombre in Instagram.
You guys are too funny for me. I'm Chuck.
Yeah, he is.
Since Chuck had 22, I would like to throw in Swamp Thing.
Oh, Swamp Thing. That's what it was, dude.
Too late.
That's what it was. I swear
Wait, Chuck,
to God.
Tell me about Swamp Thing. Tell me about it.
It was